spook easily startled.
Have you ever explored the depths of fear? Have you ever wondered what depravity dwells within the imagination of a storyteller that prompts them to exhume horrors untold and expose those horrors to unsuspecting audiences? Some are repulsed, and some are shaken. However, there are those who are invigorated. So to those demented souls, we invite you to journey inward into the dark bowels of human imagination. Press play, and you will discover what's in the podcast.
And welcome back to this edition of What's in the Podcast. And for today, we are following on with our Just Don't Look two-parter, where we talk about the art of horror movie promotion. Last time we went in depth with movie posters, but honestly, the real reason that I wanted to do this segment was because, well, movie trailers are a very tricky beast. I mean, on one side, the whole purpose of them is to show you just enough to get your appetite wet. But the problem is sometimes if they go too far, it could defeat the purpose because people will say, "Oh, I feel like I've seen everything already." Looking your way, Speak No Evil remake. So for today, I really wanted to kind of get into what goes into the art of making a movie trailer, and it is absolutely fortunate that I happen to have some wonderful individual in my social circle who actually has a lot of knowledge on this front. You know her. You are legally obligated to love her. JT Smith, welcome back again.
Hello. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, good. Otherwise, feel like I'm holding you hostage.
No.
Just to repeat for people coming in, you for a living actually edit trailers for I already said for a living. Anyway, you edit trailers for a living.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I originally started with film and broadcast stuff, but right now I'm at a place that I just strictly do video game ads,
Mhm.
and trailers for that. But yeah, I did start, I would say, a good 10 years in the movie industry and have been fortunate enough to work on some really big films, including lots of horror films. Yeah.
Nice. So, so now obviously from the perspective of someone who edits trailers, obviously you get a lot of. We'll try our best to broach these subjects without breaching NDAs for your sake, but
Right. Yeah, I just can't talk about anything I'm working on right now.
oh, okay, okay, but you can't talk about the stuff you have worked on.
Yes, yes. Anything that's
Okay,
out.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and hit us with some of the ones you've worked on.
Oh, wow. So in the horror world, I worked at this place called Buddha Jones, and um I was able to touch some of the horror movies. Most of the work that I did at the time was as an assistant editor, which is
Hmm.
someone who everything that's not creative. So I'm going through all of the footage and organizing it and sorting it and going through the actual cuts and getting them ready to go to the finish house. And there's a lot of technical stuff. So in that regard, I've worked on a lot of the big Warner Brothers horror movies, like anything in the Conjuring universe.
Oh,
Yeah, starting with what was the first one? I think it was
I think it
Annabelle
was
2.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it was just Annabelle, and then it was Annabelle Creation.
Well, I mean, for me, when I started,
Okay.
yeah,
Fair.
yeah,
Okay,
I
fair enough.
would start with a sequel. Yeah, I started with like Annabelle 2-ish, or no, I started actually, it was the very first thing I finished a TV spot for Sinister 2. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, that was a lot of fun and went on, worked heavily. This isn't something to brag about, but I worked heavily on The Forest. If you remember that movie, I don't
Wasn't
recommend it.
Yeah, wasn't that the one with
Natalie Dormer.
yeah, Natalie Dormer about the suicide forest?
Okay, yeah, yeah, and like
Yeah.
it would have been a great movie if they just didn't cast like a white blonde girl
Ye-
running away from Japanese spirits. Like,
Yeah, that's a touch
come on, guys.
awkward. Yeah.
But the trailer I thought was really well done. That was a friend of mine, Justin, who did that. And then as an assistant editor, I got to do a bunch of the cut downs and stuff for TV ads. And that's like really how I learned how to make trailers. Let's see, I've worked on lots of Blumhouse movies. Really
Oh.
fortunate, especially Halloween 2018. That was
Ooh.
one of my babies. And when I say I worked on these, I did not cut the trailers. Um, the legendary Bill Neal. Anyone who's in the
Yeah.
industry knows that name. He cut the trailer for Halloween 2018 and so many horror movies. What I did a lot when I was working with horror films is I would do the social media ads, any cut downs of something. So yeah, I don't want people to get confused. And if I say like I worked on this, I didn't do the big thing
Yeah,
that you
well, you
saw.
weren't. You still had it. You still played a viral. It takes a village to make a movie. I'm sure it takes a village to make a trailer just as
Oh yeah.
much.
Many
Yeah,
departments, many departments.
yeah. So we're
And there's
so we're not going to
so many
diminish your
kinds of
contributions.
ads. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, even just the mere 5-second ones that pop
Hmm.
up, right before your YouTube video. I mean, that still takes work.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Out.
Those are the bumpers are a big deal.
Oh yeah, a massive deal. It's that I think they call it a bumper because boom, I'm gone kind of
I
thing.
think it's a bumper just because it's like the little short thing at the beginning.
Oh, I get that, but well, no, I mean that. It's kind of like when you bump someone in the hallway, then you run off. Like, hey,
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I mean. I'm wondering if that's where that type name comes from. So, but even so, obviously it's a process where you're going to need to. Well, obviously you get a group of a little bit of footage I'm sure you're not given the whole movie to cut. I'm sure you're just given like, what?
It depends on the movie. And it depends on when you start with the movie. So I was at places where it would be we were the third party vendor, and then studios would come to us with whatever film they wanted us to work on. So it would be like if we're working on some Warner Brothers films, it doesn't mean we're working on every Warner Brother film ever. It's they came to us with specific ones. And
Okay,
yeah, if it's early, if we're working on the teaser, before the trailer, we're getting the dailies in. So that was actually something really exciting I got to do for Halloween 2018 is we were working on that while they were filming it. So we would get the dailies in every
oh
day.
wow,
And as an assistant editor, it was my job, oh no, to go through all of the footage and assemble a version of the movie for the editors and the producers to watch in our house. I would break down the dialogue, make string outs if I thought of anything that, like, oh, this is a good moment for this character or whatever. That film in particular, I was so excited for. I came in on a weekend. Didn't get paid
hmm.
because they did not need overtime for it, but I came in on a weekend and I assembled like 70% of that film on my own just because I was like, I have
Oh.
to see it.
That's amazing. Oh,
Um,
so that actually kind of lends a little bit of perspective because a lot of times when you watch a trailer, you can tell that the take that they use in the trailer is a lot of times is never the take that is used in the movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or you'll notice in the 2012 Avengers film, they use one of the great sweeping shots through the city, and that was
Hmm.
before they put any of the VFX in. So there's no aliens or anything going on
Yeah.
in that shot. And I was told when the editors did that, they didn't even know there was going to be aliens and stuff. It's a beautiful shot. And
Yeah.
it had some of the explosions and stuff done in it. But yeah, all the time, uh, we'll be using things that we don't know if it's gonna make it to the end of the film. I mean, the studio obviously has final say, so there could absolutely be times like, oh, that actor is no longer in the movie. Like, we got to cut all that stuff, or
Okay.
something like that, or we can't show this scene for whatever reason. So they have ultimate say, but yeah, when the editor is playing in the sandbox, if it's a project that we work on early with dailies, I mean, it's sort of anything goes. And yeah, and then there's other times it's later in the production, you're working on like maybe trailer number 2 or just the TV ads. They'll just give you their full cut of the movie and give you updated
Okay.
cuts of the movie rather because dailies that's a lot of data, a lot of storage space that you would need. Yeah, and I have seen sometimes where we've gotten films with holes in it. If there's sometimes like we really can't show this, there's like a
Yeah.
super top secret, or this is interesting. Christopher Nolan's film. Dunkirk.
Dunkirk. Oh,
Every
Dunkirk.
time they sent us an updated feature, everything was scrambled. All the scenes were out of order on purpose. And they would give us a new updated feature and it would be scrambled in a different way. So, yeah, that was sort of one of their I've never seen that again, but there are
Oh,
sometimes some tricky things that the studio will do to try to keep the
keep things
secret.
under wraps.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's incredible. So now actually taking it back to horror. I mean, there one of coming into my brain right now, of course, is the trailer for Freddy versus Jason,
Freddy versus Jason.
Place your bets.
where famously the heroine says, "Place your bets," which of course never made it to the movie. So that leads me to ponder: is there stuff that they will shoot that is meant specifically for use for in the trailer, like only for the trailer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's sometimes they'll do what's called an announcement trailer, and that's usually something that they put together before anything is actually officially filmed on the movie. So they'll storyboard whatever they want and they'll film something just for that. All the examples I'm thinking of are not horror related, unfortunately. But one of the Transformer movies, I worked on an announcement trailer where it's this whole scene on the moon, and none of that's in the movie.
Yeah.
They storyboarded what they wanted for the announcement trailer, and then they filmed that. I've also worked on films where Thor 2, it was further along in the trailer process, but they're like, oh, we need more shirtless Chris Hemsworth in there. We don't
Of
have any
course you
shirtless
do.
Chris Hemsworth scenes. So they actually got Chris Hemsworth on a green screen, shirtless, filming him doing whatever, and like, okay, you can put whatever background you want and make it make sense. So like there's absolutely times where something, but a lot of that instance does end up being in the film. So like, yeah, the stuff on Thor 2, I noticed a lot of things they shot specifically for the trailer, they still worked into the movie. Um, but yeah, I love
Hmm.
that Freddy vs. Jason one. I wish I knew the story behind that one. Obviously, that's way before my time, but
Oh yeah, obviously it would have been. I mean, and I know a lot of people were like going, "Why did they cut that out?" It's like it's like a freaking yeah.
yeah.
It's like a. I guess you could say it's like that big old punch in the air, like "fuck yeah, it's on, bitch" kind of line.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think another one going off of horror, but one that I think everyone under the sun loved the line so much in the trailer, and everyone was so mad when it was taken out was in Rogue One when Jyn Erso says, "It's a rebellion, I rebel."
Oh yeah.
Such a
Yeah,
great
I forgot
line,
about that
and
one.
it's such a great line. I mean, t-shirts had that line on there, and they it wasn't in the movie, and people were mad about it because honestly, it was a great freaking line. It summed up the character,
Yeah.
and
I
it's a shame
didn't,
when they do that.
yeah, I didn't work on that one. Another instance that comes to my mind though is that sometimes something works perfectly for the trailer. Like that line makes so much sense coming off of whatever we just showed or at the end of a high tension montage. You want to stop down and then have this like moment where someone says something
Yeah,
important. But in the film, it might be part of this scene that just like is a boring scene, is a redundant scene. There's no reason to have it. And if you cut the scene, you can't just like keep this one little bit of it, then
mm.
it wouldn't make any sense. So, I'm not saying that's what happened with that one, but that's definitely, I've seen stuff happen where like, oh, this is the greatest moment for this trailer. But if I've seen the movie, it's like, if I saw the movie with the original scene in it, like, yeah, it was kind of dumb. They didn't need that in the movie.
Yeah, that's also yeah, very popular. And notoriously, Rogue One did go through a lot of reshoots and stuff like that.
I
Obviously,
bet.
whatever they
I
filmed
bet.
in the beginning probably didn't fit into the final cut that they had. So, in all likelihood, that would be the case. So, actually, leading to that, now, are you given specs from the studios of what they want in the trailer, like specifically what they want in the trailer?
It totally depends project to project. Yeah, you'll have times where the marketing people at the studio, they know exactly what they want. Or it could even come down to the director or someone knows exactly how they want their trailer. Sometimes it's like we really want this song, so do something with this song. A lot of times it's we liked that trailer, do that again. Like ever since the Inception trailer came out, everyone was like, we want more blah in our trailers. Like everyone put that boom in there.
I have it under control.
There's a lot of times people be like, we don't know what we want. We just want it to feel like that one. So it's project to project. A lot of times, especially on like the big trailer, the editor is someone who has a relationship with the people at the studio. And so a lot of times they'll come to that specific house, request that specific editor, and be like, we like their editing style. We want them to do like their normal style or, whatever your team comes up with. So yeah, it really sometimes they know exactly what they want. Sometimes it's like, here's a couple of adjectives. Go.
Nice. So there have been instances where you've worked firsthand with the filmmakers themselves on some of
I have
these.
not. I have not.
Well, when I say you, I mean like the company. Your
Oh,
company has worked firsthand.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Like you said, you've worked on a lot of Blumhouse's stuff, and has there ever been any times where you did something that it came back and they're like, no, we got to show a little bit more? Because one thing I will say about Blumhouse is that, especially recently, they've had a weird penchant for oversharing a lot of stuff in their movies. I mean, off the top of my head, the trailer for Night Swim pretty much
Mm-hmm.
gave away anything worth a dang in that movie. I mean, freaking
Mm-hmm.
I think the only time an overshare worked in its favor was Megan.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, all the time, unfortunately. So they'll do testing audiences, just like they do with full feature films. I don't know how they get the people, the volunteers or whatever, but they will show people the unfinished trailer and then I guess ask a series of questions. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like testing audiences is like the death of a great trailer because as
Oh
soon as
yeah.
that happens, then the studio, they get scared. Okay, well, this person doesn't know who this character is. And this person, they are a mom. So they would want the joke about the kids in there. And then this person, and so they're trying to fit everything into the trailer to try to satisfy all of those people. Um, yeah, so many times. Or I usually say like an editor's V1, an editor and the producer. Sometimes there's a writer for the trailer. They do something creative and amazing. And then as an editor and producer, you just have to be prepared to kill your darling. Every
Oh,
version it goes through, we're gonna take this out. But we need to add this in. And yes, I have seen
hurts.
it before where the studio they get so scared that they ruin it. They did that with Terminator Genesis, where they're like, well, we need something big in the trailer, so they gave away the twist that John Connor was a bad guy. So they literally gave people the instructions, make another twist in the movie. Like there isn't one, but set it up like there could be one so that
Mm.
viewers think there's still a big twist because we already gave it the twist away.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, that's a very rare circumstance, obviously, but yeah, I am worried, especially horror movies. Anytime you have the best kills, they want to put it all in the trailer, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, no, you gotta savor that, like,
You gotta
or
tease that. Yeah.
yeah, tease the kill. So,
Yeah, you could, yeah, tease the kill, like, heck, even sometimes tease the fake kills or like the fake outs where you think that's gonna be the case.
hmm
And
hmm
yeah, because then when you're watching it in the theater, you're just like, oh,
yeah,
and then something
yeah.
real happens, and then you're like, and then the movie has you because now you think this movie can get me anytime because it even got me during the advertising.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, precisely. And actually, I feel bad because decades ago, I got cornered at a mall one time and taken back, and I was like, "Oh God, am I going to get killed?" And then no, they just had me look at the trailer for Soul Survivors. And bear in mind, this was early OOs when this was happening. So
Okay.
that was a whole generation of, well, music videos are like the way to go. So all trailers were cut like music videos
Yep.
and they were
Yep.
obnoxious and they were like hip with the kids kind of thing. And the trailer for Soul Survivor. Now the movie wasn't that great to begin with, and I kind of called it when I saw that trailer. But even then, the
hmm
trailer did not do favors because it was consistently aping what a lot of other trailers were doing because they were trying to do that 90s funny enough, it was the O's, but as any decade starts, it's always like the previous decade dying, segueing into it. But
Yep.
that's what it
Yep.
kind of felt like at that point, was like every trailer just had to have that music video edge to it. So
Yep. Trailer, like that's what I was saying is trailers go through fads. You'll have one trailer that's a total hit, and then every studio is like, we want our trailer to look like that one, even if it's a completely different film.
yeah. And
Yeah.
now trailers kind of come out in tiers. Nowadays they have a
Mhm.
teaser for the teaser coming
Yes.
out, which I'm
Yes.
like, that is just that's I mean, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to be crude here, but this is like, putting on the rubber glove before you put the KY jelly in.
Yeah.
That's like,
Hmm.
I was like, that is absolutely redundant. You know what? Sometimes we like it better when you just hit us with the trailer and we don't know it's coming.
You know what though, I will admit, because that it's always kind of annoyed me too, having trailers for trailers, the countdown. But I have to say, I saw firsthand that the recent Superman trailer, I really, I didn't work on that movie. I'm not working in film trailers currently, like I said, in
Yeah.
just video games. So I didn't know about that trailer. I didn't know when it was coming out. But they did such a good job of hyping when the trailer is coming out that then when the
Mm.
trailer dropped, and thankfully they had a beautiful trailer to back up the hype. Um, but I felt like, wow, with that hype really is what built, I think, the viewers watching just the trailer. And then that's one of the most talked about trailers right now. So I did
Well,
see how, like, okay, that worked. I see what you're getting at. I think it's just most movies don't need something like that.
oh yeah.
And
Well, as a testament to that sentiment, frankly, I would say Superman was the second most talked about trailer that came out because horror wins again.
Try to think of something different. Oh, I must keep me from going lunatic. Move, moving up and down again.
I was going to save it to talk about later just because of how gorgeous it is, but the trailer for 28 Years Later.
that's a
Holy
Bill Neal
shit.
cut.
Oh, no
That's not.
kidding. No kidding. That was a Bill Neal. Okay.
That one's
Oh,
so beautiful.
oh
Yeah.
man. Just, I mean, even just the application of the poem Boots with the combination of the music and the mounting and just seemingly and what I'm, disjointed just clips of just what we're going to see.
Hmm.
I don't need it. This is one of those times where I say, I don't need another trailer after this. This alone has me hyped because this is, to me, just sums up everything that already terrifies me about 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and if you actually listen, I don't know, have you ever actually sat down and listened to that poem?
No, I read it after the trailer came out. Someone had posted an article
Hmm.
of what the poem is, and I read it, but I have not listened to it.
Yeah, it is just, uh, that thing is just, some people have actually said, like, if you listen to that on a loop, you could go insane.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
I've been
he
testing. I've been testing on
he
myself.
Oh my goodness. Well, good luck. Good luck with that.
We'll report back at the end of the first year of the Trump presidency. So, we'll see. We'll see
Oh
what drives
boy.
me more insane first.
I was gonna say you're mixing your results there because like of course we're all gonna be insane in a year.
Who knows? Maybe the poem could restore me to sanity
Oh
because of
man.
that. Who knows? It'll be like the saturation chamber from House on Haunted Hill. You know,
Yeah.
you know, we tried to test to see if it would make an insane person sane.
Wow. I love it. I
Ooh,
love it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, no, that trailer I just thought was so beautiful, and that is something that I learned that that editor specifically does that I've been trying to kind of teach myself how to do with certain trailers is you introduce one sound at the beginning of the trailer, a very innocuous sound. Like in this, it's just the poem. It's just someone
yeah,
saying a couple of words. It could be a trailer where it's like a rocking chair. You know, you see someone in a rocking chair and you hear that squeak. And as you want to build tension, you start layering these other sound effects in and you start bringing that one innocuous sound effect back on a rhythm. and you have it building with all the other sound effects. So now everything is tied to like that moment that didn't seem that important of someone in a rocking chair. Obviously, I'm thinking of the Annabelle 2 trailer right now.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and uh and so the by the end, like that sound, just like you were saying, is like that sound is what's driving you insane. There's this tension that you feel and you can't exactly put your finger on why. And that's one of the styles that he does that I think is absolutely beautiful. And I've definitely tried to emulate that sometimes. I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but I've
Oh,
been able to do that kind of thing with like short TV spots and stuff, which is a lot of fun. I think what people don't realize about the horror film trailer, especially, I guess any film trailer, but video is the tip of the iceberg. Like what you see, that's like 15% of the process. Everything is
yeah.
audio. Everything
Oh
is
yeah.
all about the audio bed. Um, at least it should be.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's so much work going into even if you have moments of silence, there's probably still a few different sound effects they have
Hmm.
to try to manipulate the way that your emotions are feeling and what you're looking at and give you clues as to what you should be looking at on the screen. Um, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love like the first Conjuring movie is you that's
Yeah.
the whole film. But yeah, film trailers, definitely it's like very audio heavy.
Hmm. And well, with horror in specific, that's one where you need, in my opinion, you kind of need to give an audience a little bit of a tease as to what kind of horror they're in for,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
like kind of, and don't hit them specifically with what the scares, but hit them with the kind of road that you're going to be going down. Another one that, in my opinion, I think the reason why it did so well box office wise, and I think a lot of it really was just the ad campaign, posters, trailers, everything was so perfect, was Long Legs.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they hit you with cryptic imagery that you had no idea from Adam what the heck this, the crypt, the text that Longlegs was
Yeah.
using. Again, a series of seemingly unrelated but profoundly disturbing imagery of, like even in the movie, you don't even see the woman actually cut into her stomach, but just the idea that she's sitting there very clearly in ecstasy dragging a
Hmm.
knife across her gut. And it's like, what the fuck is she doing? Why is she doing that? To me, I think the best kind of, especially nowadays, the best kind of horror trailer don't give anything away or don't even allude to a scare scene, just hit you with the images that tantalize, images paired with sound that tantalize, that just put the hooks in you. Just
Yeah.
get the hooks in you and don't drag yet. Hook, don't drag. Dragging is the movie's job.
Yes. No, I feel like the Studio A24 is really good with that.
Mm.
I haven't worked with them, but at least just from watching their trailers, it feels like they trust the editor and the producer making the trailer more. Um, a lot of their trailers are that sort of enigmatic. Here's just the atmosphere. Here's the aesthetic of the film. But we're
Mhm.
not going to show you necessarily what the story is, which to me, that's what a trailer should be. Um, and yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love that studio so much is their trailers tend to just give you the vibe rather than the story. It feels like whoever the marketing department is at A24, they trust their movie. They trust that the movie will do its job, and so they can be a little more creative and free with the trailers or the ads.
Okay. So it definitely differs from studio to studio, um, in terms of like what kind of experience is going to be had cutting a trailer together. Because I mean, I would imagine you're like going, "Oh God, it's that studio. We have to deal with it on that." But then alternatively, it's like, "Oh, thank God, it's this one." Is it? I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, you'll
naming no
have
studios.
oh yeah, no, no, no. But yeah, studios they have their own marketing team and it's that marketing team that you're working with. And so yeah, they're whoever they are, they're going to have their way of doing things. And so sometimes it can be rough, sometimes it can be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many times, what would you say was the time that a trailer had to be sent back and redone like multiple times was, due to studio notes?
Oh, I mean, goodness, a full trailer, it can get up to like 30 versions.
Wow.
We saw one trailer for a not a horror movie, just a lame movie that was like 90 versions. It took them forever. Um,
Ah,
and then you'll also have versions where it's like, okay, here's version two, but we just have this tiny change. So the next one is two rev, not three. Or, the next one, we want to try these three options. So you'll have 2A, 2B, and 2C. So even when
mm,
you get to the end and you're like, well, this is version 41, that you probably still made a whole lot more than just 41 trailers.
oof. It,
Fortunately, I'm in video games now where that number is greatly reduced. Um,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, yeah, since that's where you are right now, take us through that. Like how, in especially in terms of how it differs and yet is similar in process to process.
Oh man, it's so different. The editing is very similar. Got to know how to tell a story in the short amount of time and how to, get people engaged and excited. But rather than waiting for the studio to send us footage, we have a whole team of the capture artists and directors of photography and stuff that are in the game capturing everything you need for the trailer. So as the editor, I could be like, we don't have a good shot of this character in this skin. So can you go film that? Or I'll get a take and it's like, the lighting in here looks really bad on this. Can you reshoot this and move the lighting? And like, obviously, I could never do that working on a
Yeah,
Blumhouse movie. Um,
naturally.
yeah, so that's really exciting. It gives a lot of freedom. There's, like you said, a village. It takes a village to create it. There's just a whole bunch of teams that I feel like that are working on the video game trailers. I would love to work on horror game trailers. I haven't found that yet, but yeah, I mean that would be a lot of fun. But that's the biggest difference is that we have more freedom over what the footage is, and
Okay.
we're creating it in real time. So,
Okay. Now, past, once the trailer's been greenlit, once it's been like
mhm.
it's a go, like we're sending it out. Um, when the now, how does the feedback to that trailer affect you? Like affect everyone in the aftermath? Oh no, that
Oh,
was,
greatly.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
take us through that.
huge. It could determine how they want the rest of the ad campaign to go.
Mm,
Um, Yeah, or I mean, I think what really makes or breaks the trailer house is the opening weekend of a film.
oh
If that
really?
opening weekend does really well, then the ads did their job. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Famous. Yeah, of course, inversely from stuff like 28 Years Later and Long Legs, where the ad campaign did well. In alternatively, of course, and this is easily the most cringe example, but unfortunately a notorious one, when Ghostbusters 2016 came out, and that first trailer got
I worked on
so
it.
much hate. You worked
I
on
worked
it?
on that. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. That was a rough one because I feel like that was one that I went through all the dailies. I was an assistant at the time. And
mm,
I will say that movie was amazing. And
yeah,
then the studio cut out like all of my favorite parts. Like there's
yeah,
there's so much ad-libbing going on. But that's what I,
um,
I got to see is like their ad-libbing was freaking hilarious. And they would
yeah,
just go on and you could tell they would create these like whole other sort of backstories for their characters that would come out in this. There's a scene where Chris Hemsworth is ad-libbing so much. He's making Kristen Wiig cry so bad that they have to keep bringing in the makeup person to fix her makeup. So like I'm not going to sit here and say that that would have been an amazing film and,
yeah.
totally revolutionized Ghostbusters, but I think that movie was so much better than the one that we saw, unfortunately. So then the studios got really scared and like, okay, well, what do we not want to show then? And yeah.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah, that's a whole mess in and of itself. So much so that I may have to do like a whole series of
Yeah.
videos about that. In fact, actually, Lynn and I are go to bat for that movie like crazy because I will say they did a director's cut of that later on, which actually did
Oh,
put back. Yeah, they did actually. They put in like an unrated cut, which actually like it reinsert. Actually, they reinserted a lot of stuff, which actually did um, build on the characters a lot more. So, but even then, all the
yeah.
all the shit that's been going on with like entitled Ghostbusters fans just really breaks my heart. Because frankly, to be
Yeah.
dead honest, everything that's been going on with that franchise frankly warms my heart. I love the shit out of Frozen Empire. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I wanted a big budget real Ghostbusters episode, and that's what I got.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what I got. So much so I looked at all that going, I want toys. I want toys of all that. So,
Yes.
and way off on a tangent. Stay tuned. Ghostbusters episodes later on. But
Ooh.
well, thank you for being my muse. So obviously, so bringing it back, uh, obviously, yeah, the backlash that comes from a trailer is obviously additional pressure on on your editing houses in order to try to this kind of I guess goes back to what we talked to before about studio notes on
Mm-hmm.
there. But obviously, the pressure is probably a lot higher because the first trailer's out, rejected, and now you got to go back to the drawing board, obviously.
Yeah, and again, that it depends on who the marketing team at the studio is that's handling it. That depends on
Hmm.
how they handle that. Um, Sometimes I've seen them like, well, let's double down on what we're trying to do in the ad campaign. Sometimes it's like, let's completely change um, the way that we're presenting this film, maybe change the genre of it feeling.
Oh,
I've seen, what was it, the Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt film, Edge of
Edge of
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. Yeah,
They just renamed the movie because people couldn't figure out the name of the movie and all the ads said live die repeat. So the studio's
yeah.
like, all right, that's the name now. So like,
It was so yeah, it was such a mess, and it's such a damn. Well, I mean, I'm glad the movie's been like reevaluated and embraced now, but yeah, it
yeah,
was
that's
such
a
a
fun one.
mess.
But
It's a
yeah,
great,
that
yeah,
ad campaign was rough. And that was one
yeah.
that I got to work on. I didn't work super heavily on it. But as an assistant editor, I was going through a lot of the TV spots and stuff. So that's how I got to see like the name change of the movie. It was
Oh,
like we were like, "What? Why?"
I mean, it sounds like that. I guess I wish they did land on Live Die Repeat because that honestly was not a bad
Oh,
title.
it's so much better than Edge of Tomorrow. Like, what does that
Edge,
mean?
yeah, that makes no goddamn sense. I mean, I the original title of it was All You Need Is Kill, but which
Hmm.
that I don't know what to do with that one. But yeah, Live Die Repeat. Oh God, that
The code
just
name for it, the code name for it was Practice Makes Perfect. And I always loved
oh,
that.
you know what? I like that too, actually.
Yeah, I
But
loved calling it Practice Makes Perfect.
Grant, that sounds like a romantic comedy,
It
though.
does.
But
It does.
it does. But I
I mean,
don't
that was
know.
never supposed to be the name. That was the code name, but
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. A lot of people don't know this. Is actually, if you look at behind the scenes footage, especially of the bigger releases, the slates will always have like an alternate, like a title,
hmm,
a code name title on there.
yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of it is done specifically because this is the age of internet leaks. And if any of that footage gets out, people are gonna, and if they see the slate that says like, "Oh, it's this," they're gonna flip out and
Hmm.
say, This shows everything."
I mean, I think just people don't realize how much work goes into just the audio of it. Um, the remixed songs and stuff.
Mm.
A lot of times actually what that is you'll the studio will be like, okay, we want this cue used, and you'll have someone in the music department that creates an augment of that song and like breaks it out into all the different splits. So here's just the cymbal track, and here's just that one bass track, and
Okay.
that kind of thing. And then the editor, they get to use those stems and sort of create their remix of it. And so a lot
Oh.
of times when you watch these trailers and you're like, that's a cool song, but you're not gonna find that version of the song. That's the editor and the if they have a music guy on it making the augment, that's they basically created that remix
Yeah.
for the movie, and that's something I see a lot in trailers nowadays, and it's such an art form in and of itself.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, I think a good example of what you're talking about here is actually the first Maxine trailer when they used
yeah,
one of my favorite 80s songs, Laura Branigan's Self Control.
yeah,
Uh, they did such an incredible remix. Honestly, it was such a good remix of it that I wanted that version
yep,
of that
yep.
song. Because I'll say it again, Self Control is one of my favorite songs of that era.
It's so good.
It's such a powerful song. But the way that they remixed the audio for the Maxine trailer was so spot on. And yeah, so would you
Yeah.
say that's a good example of what you're talking about?
That's a great example. The other one that just popped in my head was the trailer for Y2K with the Chumbawamba song. I love how they wove that in.
Oh, I haven't talked about
And
that movie
yeah,
enough. Y2K was a blast.
I haven't seen it yet. In fact, I was actually planning, I think it's on streaming now, and that was going to be my
Yeah.
big plan for tonight, is to finally sit down and
Yeah.
watch it.
I never thought I'd like anything with Fred Durst in it, but by God, here you go.
I just loved the trailer. It
Yeah.
really brought back all those vibes. And I think the reason that trailer clicked with me so much was because of the Chumbawamba song. But it wasn't just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, here's a song you love. They really wove it in with
They
the sound
did.
effects they were using. They wove it around the scares, the moments, and even like uh soundtrack style music, which
Yeah.
probably is, I'm sure they didn't have a soundtrack for the movie while they were making the trailer, but yeah, the way that they did that, it was fun, and it made me feel like, I don't even remember specific moments in the trailer, but I remember how I felt watching the trailer, and it's like, okay, if that's how I'm gonna feel watching this movie, then I
Yeah.
gotta watch the movie. And to me, that's what I love about film trailers, is how are you making people feel watching it? Um,
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to talk about specific trailers? Because
Oh, we are going to. Yeah, actually. And honestly, that was a great segue to lead into the next leg of what we're going to talk about today. I mean,
yeah.
obviously, horror has a long sterling history. Well, I mean, hell, it's in my opinion, it's the genre that made Hollywood because when you take it all the way back to the early days of the Universal monsters,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
yeah, they people were beefed up because you had these trailers that promised like stuff that they never thought they would ever see because it's like it's so horrifying that you don't ever want to see it, but you know you do. So I figured for this
Romance,
next, yeah,
intrigue.
intrigue, danger.
Yeah.
Yes. So I figure for fun, let's go ahead and, of course, to keep it on brand with the podcast, let's go ahead and go through. I'd say just for consistency's sake or cohesion's sake, let's go ahead and kind of go through the history of the horror movie trailer and kind of talk about like some highlights of it. So since we alluded to the Universal monsters, let's go ahead and start with the early days of the Universal monster with, of course, stuff like Dracula and Frankenstein.
Yeah.
When this dead hand moves, the monster created by a man they called Mad is turned loose to strike terror into the hearts of men. Dracula. The very mention of the name brings to mind things so evil, so fantastic, so degrading. You wonder if it isn't all a dream, a nightmare.
That was back in the day when the reason they're called trailers is they used to come after the movie at the theater.
Really?
Yep, they would trail the movie. And then
Okay.
I guess the people, they realized like, oh, well, no one's staying through the credits to watch our trailers, so then they started playing them. So, yeah, that's from those days, but I love those trailers because it's actually the opposite of what I was just saying that I love about trailers, is where it gives you the feeling of how you're going to feel when you watch the movie. They don't do that at all. Instead, they have a narrator that's telling you
Yeah.
how you're going to feel during the movie. And,
Yeah.
this actor and this actor, and in a world where one man, and it's like they have to
Yeah.
kind of tell you the whole story, but there's just
Yeah.
something so endearing about it.
Oh, you know what it is? This is now we got to bear in mind, this is the days of circus barkers and traveling salesmen
Yes.
who do big shows, who go, step right up, people. Come and see the inbred horse boy. Come on over here, and
Yeah.
see. Yeah. So I think what they were trying to do with those early trailers was kind of like be the visual equivalent to that. So that's why they have like big cards that say, see this,
Yeah.
or come and see glorious star this this person kind of thing. I think that's where their head was at. So they just
That totally
do the
makes
big
sense.
card and then they, show a little bit of the example of what they're talking about to allure people into doing that. So I think
Yeah.
that, especially when you watch the original Dracula trailer and even the original Frankenstein trailer, a lot of them do stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And this was the age before focus groups. This is the age before the internet. This is like
Oh yeah.
they don't have the whole capacity. I'm pretty sure the studios probably edited their trailers in-house, I think, at that point.
Oh,
I
I'm
wouldn't be
sure.
surprised.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'm sure that was by necessity, so that way they can keep in communication with the execs in order to know precisely how to sell it. And actually, since I love that you talked about this because I'm noticing trailers just don't do this anymore, and it kind of breaks my heart. I kind of miss the narrator in a trailer.
Yeah.
Uh,
To me, I
yeah,
don't know. A narrator is just so cheesy.
yeah, but I don't want him back all the time, but I would definitely, like, what was his name? Don LaFontaine, I think, the
Mhm.
one who had that amazing voice,
Oh yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like, I miss that guy, or I miss stuff like that, or actually, or even if you go to the jumping ahead a bit, but even the exploitation trailers, where they had, well, I think the Eli Roth's first Thanksgiving trailer perfectly recreated it with
Oh
that
yeah.
voice that talked like this, white meat,
Yes.
dark meat, all will be carved. Love that. Just love that. I feel like if the narrator's having fun, I feel like it works into the audience's favor because the audience kind of like, I don't know, it just works. I kind of wish we would get back to having trailers with narrators again. Kind of that would be fun. I mean, yeah, you're right
Yeah.
though. I mean,
It
pick your
really depends on what the film is. I think it has to be a quirky, tongue-in-cheek type movie like Thanksgiving, where you can get away with
yeah,
that. Because yeah, it is a very cheesy thing, but I mean sometimes yeah, you kind of want cheesy for your trailer.
yeah.
Like you want to show that this is gonna be fun and not take itself seriously type thing.
Mhm. Yeah. But alternatively, if there was someone who was a king of oversharing and yet somehow it worked, was Hitchcock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel.
Yeah, and this is an example of what you're talking about, that it was filmed just for this. Obviously, none of this is in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. And um it goes on like this where it's just in a way Hitchcock is kind of turning this into like a true you being a true crime enthusiast. I mean,
Mhm.
in a way he's kind of laying this out almost like a true crime documentary.
Yeah, it almost feels like an episode of Unsolved Mysteries or something.
Well, I won't.
So he's giving away the whole damn movie.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's pretty much the entirety of Arbogast Kill right there.
The bathroom.
But it's interesting because he's telling you. You still are like, well, I gotta see it. You still aren't
Yeah.
seeing anything. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and to Hitchcock's credit, yeah, the visual execution of Arbogast Kill is pretty damn wonderful.
Oh yeah.
All things considered, I think it's a testament to the impact of that movie that even though he's pretty much laying it out for you, audiences were still very clearly not ready for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get a nice, lovely Janet Leigh scream at the tail end there,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, master of the overshare, and yet it worked for that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's explaining the whole story, but again, like there's overshare, but you're still not seeing anything. You still want to like see how this plays out. So
Mhm.
it's
Precisely.
it's an interesting type of tease.
Yeah. Well, later on, he did do something more interesting with Rear Window.
For instance, down there on the second floor, the woman pacing about. He calls her Miss Lonely Hearts, so lonely that even death seems like a friend.
Those are just a few of my neighbors. first I watched them just to kill time, but then I couldn't take my eyes off them, just as you won't be able to.
So kind of making you a voyeur alongside him, kind of things. But of course, teases you with the idea of what's going on over there. Yeah, we don't know. Let's pair that with what we have nowadays, like movies that do the cardinal sin of oversharing, like the Speak No Evil trailer, now I'm being mean, but I think the reason why that one was a massive overshare is unfortunately that movie, with the exception of a horribly watered down ending, was basically the same movie for the most part. And if you've seen the original movie, you're like, I know that scene. I know that scene. I know that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But for the outsider, I don't know, did you see the original movie before seeing the remake?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I did talk to other people who hadn't seen the original, and even they were going, I feel like I know this movie already.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
step by step told you everything in the trailer. And
Yeah.
you even called it before the movie came out. You were able to tell by the trailer that they're probably gonna water down and give us the happy American ending.
And they
And
did.
just from
Yeah.
the trailer, and that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And that trailer, and it didn't help that that trailer got played over everything, like
Oh,
practically every
everything.
movie. I mean,
Yes.
Blumhouse always talks about how low budget, how like reduced budget a lot of their movies are, but it's like, gee, I wonder where the rest of the budget went. You went towards promotion
Yeah.
on that sucker,
Yeah.
which actually that's another thing. I do know it does cost I know promotion. Many people, they always say like, oh, this movie costs this much to make, but I know that those numbers aren't the final numbers because they don't take into account how much advertising costs.
Right. That's a little above my pay grade. I'm the
Yeah.
creative. I'm the creative side of things. So I don't really thankfully don't have to deal with the numbers and the
Mm,
politics of all of that. I mean, I know that sometimes they'll have a budget and like, oh, we're able to do this many TV spots and this many radio spots and then cutting all of that, but I don't I couldn't tell you how they decide any of
mm,
that stuff, where it
yeah.
comes from, how it's allocated. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's entirely fair. I'd say so moving forward, let's go ahead to go to probably one of my favorite eras of horror. Let's talk about the exploitation 70s era of horror. That's a
Oh
trailer.
yeah.
Now, because a lot of the times the filmmakers practically had to tour their movies, and obviously a lot of those movies were not made through the studio system, their trailers to me, I think, had a level of a ferocity and a discomfort to
Hmm.
them that almost, even though a lot of these movies obviously weren't snuff films, you felt like you were about to watch one
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
First one I want to talk about was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The most bizarre and brutal series of crimes in America.
There's a kind of a interesting disjointed aspect of the sound editing too. Like it just cuts into the next scene. It's like
Hmm.
on a second. Well, see, that's kind of what I mean when I say bring back a narrator. Is like the trailer should complement the narrators the way the narrators, and in turn, symbiotically, the narrator should complement the trailer. But that's kind of what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, just because that one still just has just this rawness to it that to me I think perfectly defines horror in the 70s
Oh,
during that time period.
it's so well done. And like you said, they do such a good job of making it like you're watching a real thing happen. Um, I think, yeah, nowadays, instead of the narrator, they tend to favor graphics, having like a big
Mm,
graphic card, and especially like the prettier the graphic or whatever to pull people in. To me, that's also a double-edged sword because, the graphics can be a great thing to help tell you what's going on, but then a lot of times you'll see like there's too many graphics and you're not able
yeah.
to read it all, or at the end of the trailer it's like if they were to ask you what did it say, it's like, oh, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention to that.
Thank you. You actually hit on something there. One problem I've had with recent trailers is that I notice that they are spelled like they'll spell out a graphic with a caption of like, and they're obviously not going to do the full um what they're saying. They'll like intercut it
Yeah.
between frames of video, and I'm like going, what was that? What was that? And I never get the full statement. So Again, this is another
Yeah.
reason why I think we need to go back to narrators, because at least we can hear them.
Yeah, we call that space between the two cards the hammock. And it really is a balancing act of putting something in that hammock that supports what you're seeing so that
Hmm.
you're able or supports what you're reading. So you're
Yeah.
able to realize, but also have it short enough that by the time you get to the next graphic, you didn't forget what the previous one was. And it's it's very tricky, I think.
Yeah. Very tricky process. Another trailer. Now let's veer away from America. Let's go ahead and go to Italy for this
Okay.
next one, because they are a class all to themselves. Let's go ahead and look at the Suspiria trailer.
Roses are red, violets are blue, but the iris is the flower that will mean the end of it.
You can hide from Suspiria. The only thing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Suspiria are the first 92.
That is an amazing tagline. I forgot about that tagline.
I don't know. That's basically saying, so you're saying that the ending's not as good as the first, the rest of the movie?
I mean, it's like it's sort of both. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yeah, but no, I
I thought
get
that
no.
was funny.
Yeah, but the thing about that one is that is despite the assault of visuals on that trailer,
Mhm, mhm.
it is still cryptic as hell. You do not know what
Oh
they
yeah.
mean by what is like, you can't run from Suspiria, you can't hide from Suspiria. It's like, what is Suspiria? The entire
Yeah.
time your audience watching it going, what is Suspiria, and how does it relate to this madness, that this colorful Technicolor madhouse that we are being assaulted with, that just seems to be like this hotbed of just
Yeah.
fear and terror, like all the way through. I think it's, and that trailer runs at only a minute 12.
Yep. Yep. I mean, to me, I think the best teasers are the short, just
Yeah.
giving you these. And I love what they did with the graphic. That's clearly a
Mm.
practical thing that they made that
Yeah,
just
just the
looks so
pulsating.
gross. So you're
Yes.
already thinking like, okay, whatever Suspiria's is, they're telling me I can't, escape it. But whatever it is, I'm looking at this disgusting like organs or whatever. So I'm
Yes.
already thinking it has to be like really visceral and I don't know what it is, but it's got to be gross and
Don't know what it is. And yeah, I love a bravery of a trailer that makes an audience go like, I ain't seeing it, but simultaneously, but it's gonna stay in your head because it affected
Mhm.
you like that. That at some point you may not want to see it now, but there's a little time in your life where you're probably gonna wind up going back to see it,
Oh
just
yeah.
because it stayed in your brain. And that's what it was for me with Suspiria for the longest time, was like, this trailer is like freaky as hell. I inevitably did go back to see it, and I loved it. And it's like it's
Oh, it's
still,
such a good one.
yeah, still to this day, like one of my favorites. So, do you have a trailer you want to throw in that you want to dissect?
Yes, actually, to me the quintessential horror trailer, and it's even been redone so many times, especially within its own franchise, is the original Alien trailer. And
Ah,
this is, again,
beautiful.
talking about graphics, but it's not necessarily like, here's all the stuff you have to read. It's how they introduce the title of the movie. And then they give you just this quick montage of all hell breaks loose, but you're still
Yeah,
just like the Suspiria, like you don't know. I
yeah.
absolutely love this trailer.
And just not a line of dialogue is spoken in this trailer.
Yeah, that's it. Really makes you feel like you're in space
It feels,
in
yeah, the vastness, the emptiness, the nothingness of space.
in the way they layer in the different
Hmm.
sound effects. Now you have the heartbeat.
Yeah,
Now you have this little
it's
pluck of the violin.
the trailer just feels alive.
Yeah. And this is just a chicken egg that they filmed. It's not even
Yeah,
like
but it's like and yeah, it's not even what the actual alien egg looks like, but you don't need more than just, that
no.
something's about to hatch from that egg. Oh, the sound.
Yeah, the layering of the sound effects,
It's not
building and
even linear.
building.
And it's not even
Yeah,
linear either. It's just these are things that happen in this movie. It's
exactly.
and one of the greatest taglines ever in movie
Oh,
history. It's space, no one can hear you scream.
it's so beautiful. I love that trailer. I don't know if you
Mm,
remember the Great Movie Ride at
of
Disney.
course. Oh
The
yeah.
line waiting for it, they would put you in it looked like a movie theater and they would play the
Yeah.
trailers, and that was one of the trailers they would play. And I
I
just as a
I would
kid
always
watching
hope,
that,
yeah, I
yeah,
would always hope that I was in line like right in time to see that trailer because
yeah.
that was the trailer that always got me every time. It was so good.
To me,
So
and
no,
this is one of those I also like, that's a long montage. They show you a lot. I'm pretty sure you could go through and be like, yeah, they showed you something from like every scene in the movie, and yet you're still not seeing anything. You're
yeah,
still totally, yeah, what is going on? To me, this is the perfect trailer of we're not going to tell you what the story is, but we're going to tell you how you're going to feel watching it.
yeah,
And yeah, and
it reflects
it
the movie.
totally the whole it does. It feels without any dialogue. You feel kind of, to me, both claustrophobic and like you're just in this vast open and
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally lost.
it's a wonderful I guess you could say contradiction of the fact that yeah, they're in a confined environment in this spaceship, but then it just cherry on the sundae, wide expanse of space, the little
Yes.
teeny tiny ship floating listlessly through space,
Yes.
and then just that tagline immediately tells you it's like, no, we've got you. If you take this ride, we got you, and you ain't going anywhere until we're done with you kind of thing. And it's such a, I don't think, and I'm going to be bold, and we're going to probably talk about some examples to come. I don't think it's been topped. I will be bold and say I don't think it's been topped.
No, this is my favorite trailer, and in
Yeah,
fact, it's so good that I love that within the Alien franchise, they keep bringing it back. They keep doing an
yeah.
homage. They did one for Prometheus, and then for Romulus. I loved the Romulus one.
Romulus, yeah, Romulus in particular, I think immediately told me I was going to be on board with the movie was that first initial teaser trailer
Hmm.
where Fede Alvarez, bless him, just he understood. And when that teaser trailer came out and had the same magic, the same energy,
Yes.
I was like, this movie's going to be great. I'm going to have a blast with it. And lo and behold, I did. Um, so that's about as close I think we've come. But even then, just most other horror trailers, I think. Now, granted, not if they try to be like Alien, it may contradict the spirit of whatever movie it is. But when it comes to a trailer just representing like the nature of the horror that, because the trailer almost feels alive.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
it kind of feels like almost like the creature itself kind of attacking you, and you're just like it has its claws in you. So I think the major thing. I just don't know if a trailer's been able to kind of manifest the menace as well as that one did. It's astounding. It's
Yeah. Well, I
astounding.
love there's no it's because it's well, it's 2 minutes. But there's no moments where you get stop downs. There's no moment to breathe until at the very end. And it really, yeah, it feels like something is waking up because it starts very
Yeah,
quiet and then it just gets louder and there's none of those suck back moments, none of those sudden silent waiting for a jump scare. It just
yeah,
keeps pulling you along the whole time until that very end.
precisely. It just feels well, and actually the mounting of heartbeat builds up as if it's almost in a way like like a heartbeat on the verge of a heart attack.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it just feels. It's so ah, I could gush all day, but the story I was gonna say is like when I did Shakespeare's Aliens,
Hmm.
we actually took that trailer and we took the audio, and so in the Fringe Festival, it's like a 10-minute load in for the audience. So at the second the load in begins, we had this 10-minute thing where we actually were able to sustain the audio, and then we built it up and up
Okay.
and up. So right when the show's about to start, right when actors are at ready, we that's when we start like building it up and mounting it up, and the lighting was like nice and green and foreboding kind of thing. So it was
That's
kind of awesome. But
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a
we
great
use that
way.
audio to really mess with people. Uh, so and people at the second they walked into the theater, they were just going, "Do I want to be here right
Yeah.
now?" Because
No,
remember,
that's so
this
smart.
is
It's like,
yeah, it was so no because We knew because that was my intent. I was like, no, I want to give people a thrill ride. I want to,
Hmm.
on a fringe budget, I want to give them a thrill ride,
Yes, yes.
kind of thing. Let's go ahead and move hard into the 80s now. One movie I know you love, which I actually did go back and watch the trailer for, and I'm very impressed with it. Was the trailer for Near Dark.
Caleb Colton no longer belongs to our world.
We give him a week to see if we can call him one of us.
He belongs to hers.
But you have to learn to kill.
He belongs to theirs.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That is a good one. And
That's a fun
actually,
trailer. And yeah, that's a good use of the narration that you were
yeah,
saying.
actually, one thing I noticed about that trailer is that even though they make very heavy allusions to the night, and you get some nice teases about it, they never tell you it's a vampire movie.
No, no. In fact, well, I think the reason why this movie is so special, or yeah, I mean, interesting, is that it really was the first time that anyone had shown vampires looking like normal people, kind of, like down
Yeah.
and out, seedier, rough side kind of people, rather than the refined, elegant, rich. And so yeah, so
Hmm.
then you have this trailer, and they're still not telling you that it's vampires necessarily. Like it really does just look like it's a
Like
group, a
this
gang of
renegade band,
ruffians.
this
Yeah.
this renegade band of nomads that you don't
Yeah.
know. They never allude to the fact that, it's about blood, that you just know that there's obviously a very violent band family that
Yeah.
just revels in chaos. You don't know that it's what they do. So in a way, this is kind of like the inverse of the Abigail trailer, where that one
Yeah.
tells you it's a vampire movie, whereas so so flipping it, do you think by saying vampires are involved in the Near Dark trailer, do you think that would have taken away, or do you think it would have added to it?
I don't know. That's hard to say because I think like what Catherine Bigelow is going for is that this isn't normal vampires. So if you were setting it up like let them know now this is a vampire movie, then audiences will already have a preconceived notion of what they should be watching, but that's not what this movie is going to be. So to me, this trailer, by not telling you it's vampires, does a better job of explaining what the movie is than by telling
Okay.
you it's vampires.
All right. So I suppose since we're on the vampire trains, as if we ever got off the vampire train,
Yeah.
let's go ahead. The Lost Boys trailer.
Vampire, Michael. My own brother, a damn blood-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
When a vampire bites it, it's never a pretty sight.
Michael, they're coming!
Oh, yes. I just
Yeah.
rewatched that movie again last night.
Actually plays its cards on the table for all intents and purposes, but
Oh yeah, that one
uh,
that definitely is like an overshare of a trailer, but it's with the music, the song that they're
yeah,
playing in it, they're still giving you like the vibe
I
of
think that's
yeah.
I think it's what the success of that movie. Actually, I suppose the behind the scenes story is in store for this one because Joel Schumacher did have a bit of a fight with the studios on this movie because the studios thought they were making a horror film, and they
Yeah.
were, but when they were going back and seeing the dailies and noticing how much of an emphasis on comedy there was in the movie, they were getting a little antsy. They were like saying, "What are you making? Are you making a horror movie or a comedy?" It's like going, "Yes."
Yeah.
Yeah, because the studio has even though there had been other horror comedies around during this time, they just couldn't wrap their heads around the idea that a horror movie could be both.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this trailer, I think it's less about now Lost Boys, it's less about plot revelations or anything like that. It's more about a mood. I mean, there's a reason Lost Boys has always been called like a time capsule of the 80s. And
Yeah.
to me, I think this trailer just lays this is to its benefit of them just giving us what it is, because the mood, the attitude, the style of the movie is all there in that trailer.
Trailer shows you everything, and yet to me this was still like the perfect trailer because how I feel watching the trailer is exactly how I feel when I watch the movie.
Lynn would probably not be happy if I didn't mention this one trailer because apparently this is a trailer that freaked them out so bad.
Uh-huh.
like for a long time. It actually gave them nightmares. The trailer for Wes Craven's, yeah, and my favorite Wes Craven film, The Serpent and the Rainbow.
That's a twisted trailer.
In the shadows of the imagination lies the ultimate nightmare.
Don't let them bury me. I'm not dead.
The Serpent and the Rainbow.
I love the go to black, have a beat, and
Mhm.
then he finishes it, and you put a little bit of a ring out on the dialogue. I'm
Yeah.
not dead. It just, yeah, so good.
I'm always a big fan of that as well. I mean, because there's just there's a nice level of foreboding to it. Now, the great thing about, and this is the reason why why I think it's such a great film, is because, especially compared to anything else Wes Craven did, it was such a drastic departure from anything we were used to from him.
Oh yeah.
To me, this was illustrating a world that I know the rest of the world is not familiar with
Mm-hmm.
at all. Like a lot of them are so ignorant of. So that trailer was assaulting like the mass populace who would go see this movie. I think assaulted them with just stuff that they didn't know what the heck to make of it. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I know it wasn't a box office darling, but I do know that people, when you see that trailer and you're unfamiliar with, especially with this world that was being portrayed in it, you don't know what the hell to make of it. So it's kind of illustrating that just this, you don't know what journey this movie's taking. Just it seems like it's entering a nightmare realm.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks fantastical, and yet there's still this grounded in reality feel to it that,
Mhm.
yeah, you're not entirely sure what you're going to be seeing.
Yeah, and then when you watch the movie has actually does have a series of nightmare sequences.
Mhm.
Uh, and when you actually watch the movie, you realize it's actually a very earthy movie. It's just you
Yeah.
don't, and it's just the trailer is hinting that there's a spiritual side that you don't know what makes sense in relation to each other. So, um, mercifully, they didn't have the scrotum nailing scene alluded to in there, thank God.
Yeah.
But
Oh God. I think that would
but
have been, I don't think they would have been allowed that back then.
oh man, fun for the whole family. The fact we've already kind of alluded to a lot of the stuff, like talking about modern trailers in relation to, do you feel that we've kind of veered away and it's to our benefit that we kind of veered away from the way trailers are done back then? Or do you feel like there's something lost in everything that we've talked about that you feel like that we should try to maybe aspire to get back to in order to really advertise a good movie? Or at least do a good trailer for a movie?
It's just like the way films evolve,
Yeah.
that I love the way that film trailers evolve. Um,
Mm.
there's definitely, I love when trailers, but it has to be like we mentioned, the right kind of film. Like the Thanksgiving trailer did an homage to those earlier exploitation trailers, and that definitely gave you sort of this comfy nostalgic feel. And so I do love when they do that, but um there's also a reason like why trailers don't look exactly the same anymore. Audiences grow smarter, so we don't need the narrator holding our hand through the entire plot to tell us what's happening. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Actually, that's actually kind of a good like kind of way to wrap everything up here is just the fact that yeah, as movies evolve, so do obviously the way to advertise movie, and obviously, and not just that, but also the way we as an audience see the trailers. Nowadays, we're watching them on our phones. We're watching them, in between
mm,
videos on YouTube. Now it's a different world. So, if anything, I mean, as a tip off to, stuff like say the Blair Witch Project when that did a whole slew of viral marketing, not just
oh
in
yeah,
regular trailer form, but even just on the internet. So,
yeah.
if anything, I guess what we could say is that, yeah, it's good that, as fun as it is to go back to the styles of old, we have to just keep adjusting to the way, I guess, and not just that, to the sensibilities of the audience. Because, yeah, we are living in kind of a more hyperactive ADD age
Absolutely.
now.
That's why you'll have the bumper before the trailer, and you'll have the like 5 second, the trailer starts now, and then you watch the trailer, and it's like, why do you need that for the trailer? But that's because we're in an age now where everything is scrolling and you're scrolling through fast. And so you need to be able to capture the audience within that 5 seconds of here's the coolest shots. Okay, now you're ready to watch the whole thing.
Okay.
I think nowadays they're starting to actually cut trailers like that. So instead of having the bumper in the beginning, we're just gonna, instead of slow build into the trailer, we're gonna show a quick montage in the beginning of the trailer and then get into the story. And yeah, that's because audiences are different now. We're not just sitting in movie theaters with nowhere to go watching the
Yeah.
trailer. It's people are scrolling on their phones.
I feel like we did pretty good in terms of like
Yeah.
going deep into this. So, um, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Uh no. I'm just excited I got to talk about movie trailers.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited I got a chance. I'm so happy that you were here to be able to tell us precisely like all the intricacies and the nuances that goes into the making of them. And,
Mhm.
so for anyone who, and I'm going to say this, throw down, for anyone who's going to bitch and moan about trailers, know that there's a lot of work that goes into it. And a lot of fingers are in that particular pie. you know, it's never just one person's decision on how a trailer is meant to go. So, and frankly,
Yep.
and I hope that we have in our own, especially Tally, in their wonderful, humble way, has been able to show there's a lot more going on in this than to get you to get your butt in the seat.
Yes. Yes, there's
Exactly.
teams upon teams
Yeah.
working.
All right. So, of course, our customary wrap up. Have you seen anything new recently that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw Nosferatu and I
Ah,
absolutely loved it. I saw The
that's
Wolfman.
another one. That's another one with a trailer that did a great
Oh,
job.
trailer was beautiful. Trailer was
Oh yeah.
perfect. Yeah, I saw The Wolfman the other night.
So did I. Yeah.
It was what I expected it to be.
I'm fine with it being what I expect. Well, actually, one thing I wasn't expecting, which I was very happy about, was much like The Invisible Man, Lee Winnell did a really great job kind of delving into the world of a Wolfman in terms of like
Oh
their
yeah. I
just
love
the
that.
just the way that I love the whole all the sequences when they could see
The different
like
points of view.
yeah, different points of view. But yeah, actually, I just released a whole discussion on Nosferatu on that one. Actually, there's another one where the advertising campaign, where the trailers did an excellent job just teasing you with
Oh yeah.
imagery.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's
Just a
basically what
whole
that movie is.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, I'm still like catching up. I'm still like kind of firing up. Actually, I need to watch. Matt Kanopka was telling me about a movie called Red Rooms, which is now on Shudder, so I need to get around to watching that.
okay.
But I did, I and I've already talked about a bunch of other ones I've watched recently. But I did. There's a film, an Australian film called Beaten to Death, which I just watched recently.
Oh.
Um, I was not as in love. People were making it out like it was like this raw, visceral film, and it is. I mean, it's definitely not a pleasant
I
film.
remember
I
the
did,
trailer. I know the
and I
trailer for it. Yeah.
and I remember going like, okay, it's a good throwback to exploitation. Gorgeous cinematography. I will give it that. Some really good elements of visual storytelling, but the way people were talking up, this may just be the seasoned horror fan of me, but a lot of the stuff in there was all stuff that I've seen done. I'm sorry, but when you've seen Art the Clown take a chainsaw up a guy's ass, I mean, I think pretty much a lot of stuff in here. And again, when you watch stuff by Lucio Fulci, a lot of the stuff in
Mm-hmm.
here is just kind of tames by comparison. So it may just be because I'm a lot more hardened, but that aspect of it was okay. Now, I did enjoy that they did a Strange Darling non-linear approach to the storytelling. That was fun.
That was such a good movie. That
Yeah.
was fun.
But I feel like Strange Darling succeeded a heck of a lot more. And I think a lot of it mainly has to do with the fact that the scenario you think
Mhm.
is going to be conventional, but then becomes way more complicated as it goes on. Whereas
Is
Beaten to
wild, yeah.
Death, whereas Beaten to Death, pretty much once you get the ebb and flow of what these characters are and why they're doing what they're doing, it just feels like, oh, we were always going to end up here. Like there was
Okay.
no
Yeah.
if, ands, or buts about it. And then when you do get to the ending, I'm just like, okay, why did I just watch that?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
put it on my
Alternatively,
list to see it,
yeah.
but it's
Yeah,
not
I'd
a
love to hear your
priority.
take on that. I will say though, I did see The Damned as well, which that one was
Okay.
spectacular. That was
Nice.
excellent. Yeah, so that one's good too. All right, so that was our two-part discussion on posters and movie trailers. JT, thank
Yeah.
you so much. Always a joy every
Yeah. Thanks for
time.
having me.
And now with both of us pretty much off the dumpster fire that is Twitter, where can people find you now?
I'm on Blue Sky, that horror queen.
That horror queen, because
Yep.
you are. Because you are. All right, everybody. So stay tuned. Actually, I think by the time this airs, yeah, we'll be going into February, which we'll be doing our Black History Month celebration of, and also our salute to Tony Todd, with where we're going to talk about Candyman in the beginning of the month, and at the end of the month, we are going to spotlight the 2021 Nia DaCosta film, and also a couple of little fun things in between. Lynn and I are also going to do our spotlight on My Bloody Valentine as well.
Nice.
Of course, obligated to. So, all right, everybody. So, in the meantime, if you wish to delve into the dark bowels of human imagination, ask yourself the simple question: what's in the podcast?
Thank you for joining us on this edition of What's in the Podcast. If you find yourself hungry for more deep cuts into the gloriously morbid and macabre, you can also find us on TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Narcotic Casserole. You can also follow us on Instagram at Narcotic Casserole 25. Follow us if you dare.